Oh, it never gets old. Happy Sunday. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Call to Action Network on Chill to Action. This is somewhat of a special episode. It's kind of a special episode, I guess. But you know me, it's your girl, Danny Joy here, hanging out with my favorite co-host, Mr. Calvin with you.
It's me, it's PLD, and it is a happy Sunday?
It's a Sunday. It's Sunday. You're watching this on Sunday.
You're here on Sunday. We're here on Friday. We actually did a pre-tape of this one, special scheduling, all that jazz. But I'm very excited to have it. We were going to have 2 weeks off. We were going to do that before we had our next couple of shows planned out. We hadn't gotten to a conversation with a certain someone, and we decided to make a special episode of Chill to Action because of it. I'm excited. How about you?
I'm very excited about today. Look at you. Look at how excited Paul is. He's just bright and beaming with excitement right now. I love it.
That's the difference between recording at 11 o'clock my time at night versus 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you now. That's okay. Without further ado, let's bring on our special guest, someone who's been on the show before. You do know him. He's got a lot of opinions. He's very excitable. He's a very brilliant individual. He started a revolution in different places around the league. You know him. You love him. Billy Belford.
I'm back on Chill where I belong. Here to tell everyone how it is and how it goes. I've never seen Paul in sunlight before. It's an eye-opening thing. It's actually Sunday night here. Alabama already won. I'm here in the future, but I'm very excited for what we have going on tonight. I'm happy to be here with Danny Joy as always. Paul's here too. We have another special guest this evening. He is the Jim Morrison to Mark Ellison's John Densmore. He is the creator of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, the chairman, the boss, not Bateman, that loser. He is one Kristian Harloff.
I can curse on this show, right?
Absolutely.
That's the best fucking intro anyone's ever given me. I'll tell you that right now. Not because you call me Morrison, because you called Ellis Densmore. That's amazing. And PLD, you're doing yourself an injustice, my friend. Of every time Danny introduces you, she's like, "It's me, PLD."
You have to switch it up and go from the DDP to the Mario. I like that.
That's what goes on in my head, at least.
Yeah, at least wear a red shirt when you do it.
Yeah. I will. I'll have to get one. I have to get my big red shirt there. I'll get the overalls too. I can do it. So.
Please.
They're available at TeePublic, Paul. You can get a red shirt for TeePublic.
No, they're on Skybound now. We just
Skybound. Yeah.
Came up with the idea, so we own the design. Sorry, guys.
It is now. Absolutely. Got a way to make it work, right?
Right.
How you doing, Kristian? How you doing today?
Hey, man, yeah, excited. We are on a roller coaster ride, and it is up right now, and it's going up and up and up towards the 15th, which is the awards, and then right into the 22nd, into the 29th. I mean, those are 3 big days. This is the 3 biggest days probably in Schmoedown history because of it's like the sign off to. I think that it was you guys that were talking about how, and I can't remember who made the counterpoint, but you guys were talking about the name of the series, the name of the season, how it was called the New Era, and it should have been called the Digital Age or something. It was the New Era. It absolutely became the New Era, even though it wasn't intended for that. It was intended for different things. It still fit the name because of everything that we had to do and everything had to move. So the 15th is an ultimate sign off to that. And now we're approaching this entire season from everything that we learned about the New Era. And we are approaching it that way with the hope and the intention that the way that we used to do it will come back, but we're prepping and we're preparing for the way that we have been doing it. And the audience has accepted now the way that we do it. So it's almost going to be like this massive reward for the audience when we're doing this show. And we have these new shows that we have coming up on the Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday, and it's digital for so long. And then that day, whenever that day might be, when I say, guess what? Starting next week, we're shooting from the studio, and then I say, guess what? We're going back live. people are going to lose it because you're already so invested in all the characters and everything too. And we're upping production, and we'll get into all of this, but like the production team has been working overtime to change. The look of the show is going to be different this season digitally. There's going to be a lot of cool things that we are doing to really turn this from what it was into this mental sport that we are very proud of.
I have a quick question. With everything, when we do finally get to go back into in-studio and live matches, do you think you might utilize some of these online matches once we do go back to in-studio stuff?
Yeah, so the plan is this. What it was supposed to be, Brian Mitchell, Brian's going to be going off to doing some new things this season, so he won't be with us this year, but he will be doing if we need him for live events and stuff too, he'll be around. But what he and I planned out for this season before it got really bad in LA was we were going to create the Wednesday show, which, whether we had a studio or not, was the digital show. So that would allow us to then do Star Wars matches, Inner Geekdom matches, because most of the Star Wars competitors we have are out of town. Most of the ones that we have, plus it's single. It's the single championship matches are easier to do than teams. So we said, okay, digital could be good. Digital pay-per-view for the Wednesday could be. Billy, you guys are all wrestling fans. I mean, so. The Wednesday show, if you look at it, is NXT, right? The Thursday show is SmackDown, and Friday is Raw. That's right. The way we're looking at it, with three big pay-per-views, right? And the three pay-per-views, there's going to be one match for the first pay-per-view, which could be a really big match or something really fun, like the Wildberry Civil War would be something that you could see on that one match, right? Then you have the Throwdown, which could be an exciting undercard, like Video Drew versus Jen Kemp, and then the main event could be like Chanju versus Mara or something, right? And then there's going to be Schmoedown Battlefield, which is the big pay-per-view at the end of the month, which could be Chanju versus Mara, and then like Collins versus Dan. Those are the three big things that we're doing this season for pay-per-views. So to answer your question, Danny, we're definitely going to be doing that digital Wednesday is going to stay digital whether we get the studio back or not.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I do like that.
Another potential use for digital is actually a question we had, like on backstage. We were talking about wanting to establish the minor leagues. You discussed that potentially you wanted to start in March if you had your way. What needs to happen to make that happen? And can you spell out like your perfect vision of how the minor leagues would interact with the big leagues? And for example, like, would that be a way we could also use the digital format?
Yes, digital. The ideal way that we would do it is that digital would be, minor leagues would be Tuesdays on Twitch, and it would be weekly on Twitch, and we would start it in March, and it would go until about September or October, with the idea being people that don't make the draft, put them in the minor leagues, let them play, give them records, do everything that you have to do. And then in June or July, bring more people in and have like a massive like open. And the winners of we'll have Star Wars, we'll have teams, we'll have Inner Geekdom, we'll have everything. The winners of all those tournaments that we do for the minor leagues will get a guaranteed draft spot in next season, in season 9. Okay. So that's kind of the idea there. Now, that's not to say that during the free agency period, if there's someone who's just annihilating and someone who's in the minors is 6-0, knocking out everybody and just racking up points, and it's like that person's a killer, and one of the managers goes, hey, I want to try to sign this person during free agency on the second half, they can do that. That's the beauty of the minor leagues. Now, to answer the question as far as what needs to happen, and I know this is something you're going to ask in a little bit, it's all about budget. I don't think that everybody understands, and nor why would you, that you have to run and look at everything like a business. So when we have a great day in let's say SEN Live, when we do a big day in donations, right? That's budget that goes into the potential of all of the different, everybody in the pros, everybody in the main showdown gets paid. Everybody gets paid. So whether it's the managers, whether it's the desk people, whether it's the competitors, that's a lot of people. So you got to realize that, and you're not thinking about the crew editors, freelance editors, people that you have to bring in. There's things that happen in general, whether it's and you're not thinking about the music that we have and the graphics that we have. It's a full-on operation. So that's why I never treat Patreon like it's so past, like just like, hey, Patreon is something for if you want to support the network. It's like, no, we are giving you a product. We are giving you a network. We want to make sure that at that $10, we want to treat it like a streaming service. We want to make sure that at the $10 thing, and not only do you get the content, but you get also added benefits for that hardcore fan that you're able to, okay, I'm a $10 patron, and now instead of paying the $5.99 or the $6.99 per pay-per-view, I'm going to get all three for $10. And it's like with the amount of matches that we're going to be doing, to me, that's a steal. And and to be able to do that and get more people to want to do it, and that's also why the inclusion of more people with more audience to find in. Let's bring in some new people. Let's find a new audience. Let's do that, because it's not. I mean, what's people don't understand too is even with everything that's going on with SEN and it's still not enough to be able to grow this thing out the way we want. My marketing budget isn't even close. My marketing budget stinks. It stinks because you need more. It's not a matter of like, you see trolls, not real people, trolls, stinky, disgusting trolls. What they do is they're like, oh, yes, you're asking for more money. Yeah, dummy. If you want to be able to build out a business and you want to be able to build out promotion and you want people to learn about your thing, you have to spend money to make money. That is the way that business works. And that is the way, like, the other thing, like I work at a fraction of what I want to work at. I want to be able to have promo videos for every one of my competitors to be able to showcase all the stuff that they did. I have 2 editors, and last year I had 1 really. I mean, not fair, because Michael Aronson, who's a brilliant editor over at Skybound, he's just on everything at Skybound. So when we use him, he crushes it. Like he did the opening of the spectacular with all, like when they're going down the hallway with all that stuff. They open that opening thing. He did it. And then Eric was taking on way too much. And so that's why I had to make moves to try to do certain things to ensure I could use him for certain things, bring in other editors. So there's a lot that goes into it that I don't think, and like I said, why would you know? But there's a lot that goes into trying to build this thing out.
Well, hopefully, people don't think that you're just Scrooge McHarloff jumping in your piles of money you're getting from SEN.
Paul, I make shit. It has nothing to do with me. It's like, because the more people we bring on, and the reason we're able to bring in more people in general is because of what we're able to do. Like I had to scale. Like if you notice on SEN, we've scaled back on panelists, so I could use that to be able to bring in more people to work on post in MTS. It's like you've got to be able to manage stuff. You have to be able to look at it the right way. And that's also why we have to make sure that we ensure that new audience is the big priority this year. We have to like really aim towards new audience.
And that the content that's on the Patreon it really is top tier content for at that $10 level. So knowing that you're going to get so much more next season, it really is.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely. I think
it's you're not only getting those pay-per-views, you're getting all the other things you get on that tier and all the tiers underneath it. So it's so
much. The pay-per-views alone, really, the pay-per-views alone would be worth it. But we're doing behind the scenes stuff. We're going to do watch-alongs. We're doing the exhibitions. We're going to make sure that we have Q&A stuff. We're doing exclusive podcasts on SEN Live. We're going to do a karaoke night for SEN Live, to where you can, I forget what it is. I forget which tier it's at. But there's going to be 10 people that can join at that tier for the month, and you'll be joined by 1 or 2 SEN members and do karaoke party with them.
Oh my God.
So signing up to that right now, whatever tier it is, he doesn't care. Danny will be there.
You know what I mean? So and we want to make it fun for you guys. We want to make the interaction fun. We also want to make sure that, because we see every pay-per-view, there's somebody who says, well, I'm going to get that one. I don't think I'm going to get that one. But then it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to get 3 and I was going to get all 3 that day and spend like almost $20, I'm just going to get them all for 10.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one thing about the new era, the digital era, that's kind of helped is that there's been a lot more interaction with people. I mean, some people will say like it was different because like a lot of the new podcasts and after shows are getting guests a lot easier because obviously it's the pandemic and people. Last year we did it the hard way. We networked.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Januzo was buying drinks. That's how the drink budget of the Januzo household was way down. And the live events got canceled.
Yeah, and Yakabetta.
Yeah, exactly. He can't do his work now, but that's exactly the thing. But it's actually been also the way showing what the interaction between the community and the SCN and Schmoedown people can do. So even building on that with Patreon even helps even better. I think it's a good way to go. But to follow real quick on the minor league situation, you mentioned teams. Now you said before you hated the teams in digital format. Obviously, you're not going to have them as much. You're going to hold off as long as you can in the big leagues. In the minor leagues, that's still going to happen digitally.
So I don't know how much you watched on Backstage when I was on, but my kind of pushing back on my own stuff begrudgingly. I might have to do teams on both because the definitely on minor leagues they would definitely be done because we'd want to make sure to see chemistry and that kind of thing and to get people ready. It's more likely that teams will happen in the bigs between March and April, but definitely non-title. My goal is to pay attention to what's going on in the world and find out how realistic it is. If it's realistic that we can get back into a studio, because we were supposed to, what we were going to do was rent out a theater, again, for you wrestling fans here, and go very 1993 Monday Night Raw with it. And we were going to actually tape. We were inside of a theater. We had the theater. It was booked already. And we were going to tape the entrances. We were going to light the entrances. We were going to shoot things behind the scenes. We were going to use the whole entire theater to shoot these actual matches and do everything for our shoots. And that's when we were going to do teams. If we find out that we're able to do that and it looks like, okay, you know what, we'll probably be able to get back into the studio by like May. Then I'm going to hold off and you won't see the Odd Couple defend those titles until May. But if it's like, you're probably not going to get into a studio until like June, July, or August, then I might be forced to have them defend the title, but it'll definitely be pre-taped.
Well, the Snyder vacates the title by going to the exchange. That might be even something different, you know.
Look, I'll tell you what, those rumors, from what I heard when I asked Snyder and he said no comment, like he didn't say, like, I can tell you for a fact, I know that Dagnino and Roca wanted him bad. Now, whether or not they have a chance to, I don't know. But I know that I definitely know that they were talking. It wasn't a BS report.
Oh no, I think Dagnino's trying to make a lot of different moves. I think he's throwing a lot of shit out there to see what's going to stick at this point. But yeah.
Traditionally, Dagnino will talk to anyone who will listen to him. So I mean, he's talking to a lot of people.
He put his mask on and started talking to himself in the area. He kept taking it on and off. And just like, what do you think? You think you should join? I don't know. What do you got? You know what I got. He needs a good run this year because he's coming off of a very tough season because he is a live event in studio manager. He is very good at that. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good he is because he does psych up his players. He does get them ready. He does add to the energy. He hypes up the crowd in the live events. He's in the players' ears during the rounds, and he's a very good in-person manager. He's a terrible digital manager. He'll tell you himself he needs to change his style. He needs to figure out how to do it because he can't just rely on his players' talent. He's got to figure out a way to do it because when you have people like Winston and Shannon and Roxy and Coy and even Kaiser, I don't think Kaiser gets enough credit for what he did. He drafted terribly. He made a risk and he drafted terribly. But you look what he did in the second half of the season. Video Drew had a great win. Brittany Young had a great win. Zipper had a nice run. Adam Witt played strong. Kaiser managed well. He managed very well. He just had a rough season. I think Kaiser had a much better season than Dagnino did, even though Dagnino finished higher in the rankings.
Yeah, I heard you make that comment on SCN that you feel that Kaiser should have been nominated over Dagnino for manager of the year this year.
100%.
I should say that I like even Kaiser's draft. It was a strategy. It was a ballsy strategy. Didn't work.
Now his thought was that Smets would hold on to the title for the remainder of the year, and that Parker would win the tournament and get there, and then that's the big decision that he'd have to make, and it just didn't work out. He took a gamble, and his big gamble, and he also didn't know. We all didn't know how the season was going to go, and we didn't know what kind of the big tournament singles. He didn't have. Zipper played very well, but Zipper's not at that level to where you can hang. I mean, look, he hung with Ethan and he did very well, but he's not there yet. He's not there yet.
He's made a lot of improvements. I think he's getting there, but we'll have to see how it goes in the future for him.
Great.
I just think from where Dagnito started with having that front-loaded team, anything short of not winning the league is going to be a terrible year. Like you have to win the year. If you got the 27 Yankees and you don't win the World Series, you had a bad year. Like,
yeah. And it's funny because people did the Facebook group put together the new point system, and to see how they would have done with the new point system, they still would have come in second place.
Yeah.
Let's speak on that, on the point system you came up with. How did you determine the point value, the new point values? What was it seems like 7 was a number you just kind of picked out of nowhere. Like, was there any?
No, it wasn't out of nowhere, because I was going to make it 10 at first, and then I was like, well, that might be too much to do, and plus the fact that it doesn't add enough value to the spectacular match when we get there. And then I started thinking about the math of it and kind of going into putting the points to it this year. And then I consulted Frank on it too, because he's the numbers guy, so I was showing him some of the stuff, and we talked it through a little bit, and then that was kind of the idea for it, because I looked and like I said, I paid attention during the year and during the season to hear what the fans were saying, and I agree that number one contender matches should have been worth a little more. The title matches was something that I wish I would have done in the beginning of the season, made them worth more, because I value the championships more than anything. More than I like hearing someone say, like, I don't know, do I want to take a title shot or should I enter a tournament? The answer should always be title shot. It should always be title shot. So now this puts them in a position where number one contender shot plus title shot plus defense is a no-brainer for you to join, because you can rack up a lot of points if you can start defending.
Right. That was my favorite things that you've talked about backstage, is that just changes the game, makes it so much more
you get it.
Do.
I mean, look at Smets. Like, Smets was the champion. He doesn't play till mid-season. So now it's like that pick is now completely devalued because he doesn't get to play, and then he
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at Damon, right? Alex Damon, had he not played an Intergeekdom, if you go to that point system that we had, he picks up 8 points. Right. Oh, actually, and Swag loses loses a point. There's a TKO. So it would have been big. And if you would have gotten that knockout, then they would have gained 9 points.
Yeah.
So it would have been massive for the Rockstars if that had that kind of panned out. So I like the system a lot, and I'm excited about it. We talked about it with the managers first. We did like a big conference call with all of them for like 2 hours and went over everything. And they were there was. Sam, of course, had a lot of questions, but they were all great. They were all great questions. They were really good questions, and that's why we had the call, because I wanted to get their feedback and see how they felt, and that's also when we made the decision about Roxy and Roxy's picks and Sam's picks, and made sure that we put that out there too.
Can you clarify that? Now you mentioned that one of our questions we had earlier on with Roxy getting the 3rd round pick. Now it's her pick, and the additional pick is what you meant by 2 3rd round picks, correct?
Yeah, she gets where the Burning Droogs would have got, which is the first pick in the 3rd round. And then I think it's the 6th pick in the 3rd round. So I think she gets the 1st and the 6th, I believe, or the 1st and the 5th. I can't remember, whatever the math is, but she'll have the 1st and whatever her pick was, she'll get that in the 3rd. So she'll have 2 of them. That's
okay. So it wasn't 2 additional. I just want to clarify that wasn't like 2 additional.
No. It's just the pick that she traded for. She gets. So because it was draft consideration. The reason why that was made was because we wanted to make sure, for a couple of different reasons. One, she made the deal, and then the fact that if there's nowhere for those picks to go that she traded for, like in the case of Sam, there's nowhere for that to go. There's nowhere for that pick to go. So we ultimately made the decision that Sam would keep that pick. But for her, it was like, okay, well, she the league can still give her that pick. She can still pick where she was supposed to, because for draft consideration, plus the fact we also wanted to not devalue that for future picks. Like, so that way now, if managers want to, if let's say that Kate and Shannon are talking about draft picks and a trade and sign for Marisol, right? So let's say Kate says, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll give you Marisol. I want your this pick, plus your first round pick from next year. Now she's not, because now she can say, well, no, I know that'll be honored. I know it'll be honored, because like as of 2 weeks ago, it was like, well, I don't know if I want to make that pick, because what happens if corruption goes under and then I can't do it. So we are gonna do something next year that, even like in the case of Sam, that there'll be kind of like a different rule in place, because we were too far along when we were thinking about it to then, because Sam's already been having conversations, to then just spring it on Sam and say, oh yeah, by the way, now you don't have a first round pick. It was just too sudden, and so we came to a compromise to do it this way.
Makes sense. That's like, I'm glad I came into that, because I know there was rumblings about exactly what you're talking about, the valuation of the draft pick going forward. So that's important to do in this sport. As part of the league as part of the league, it's still technically a baby league as far as some of this stuff
7 years old. The league's 7 years old. So it's like, it's very young.
I didn't know anything about fantasy draft in any sort of capacity until the Schmoedown. So.
Right. Well, that's a lot of things. I find that a lot, as there are a lot of people who don't and are learning, who don't understand like the sports element of it yet, and they're learning as far as draft picks goes, and roster spots, and how people are going to be used and not used, and well, not everybody got to play that was on a roster. Not everybody gets to play that's on a baseball roster. Not everybody gets to play if you're on a basketball. Sometimes you sit on the bench. It's like the way that the Schmoedown roster works is you either get or you don't get an opportunity from your manager, and if you get an opportunity, you better win it. Because there's so many people out there now, you've got to win. And it's the same thing. Like, we can never, for those people who ask, and I'm sure it'll come up here too, as far as this league is not a traditional sport. It is not a sport where like everybody gets an equal amount of matches. Everybody gets 50 or 60 matches. Everybody gets that, and that's fair. It's not, because if you get 60, and I made this point the other day, if you get 60 matches, if everybody got 60 matches, and then Jeff Snyder versus Dan Merle is the, let's say we'll just Finstock Exchange is Dan and Snyder is Rockstars, right? So if Snyder is from Rockstars and Dan is Exchange, and it's both their 60th match, and then Snyder wins, you get a title shot. No, you can't. Why? Well, because that was your last match.
Makes sense.
Oh yeah.
You don't get a title match. Why? Because you'll have one more match than everybody else. Yeah, but what it is that everybody needs to get the equal amount of opportunity. So if there is the tournament, for example, if each team gets 4 people into the tournament, you're going to get 4 people in. There's your opportunity. Your opportunity is like, get your players to win. If they don't win, then you're going to lose the opportunity. So you very well could end up with 12 matches. Do you know why that is? Because you kept losing.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's also that's the difference between a lot of traditional team sport. Because like the Schmoedown is very much a team and individual sport at the same time. You can't have a season where you have teams fight each other, then they have a playoffs at the end. That's not how that works in this way.
But Paul, it's the way I always envisioned boxing working well in a league. I want it like boxing is always promoter, and it's why you never get that's why UFC started to work so well when it did back in the the early 2000s, was because they made it clear that if you were ranked, you had to play whoever Dana said, okay, look, you're the number 1 contender. You're going to play the champion. The champion can't say no. But in boxing, they go, nah, not enough money. I'm not doing it. And it's a league thing. Now, my thing was always, so what if they were also all on teams? What if like they're all on factions, and then you set it up like a schedule, and if you win, you keep playing. If you lose, you don't. That's a way that fighting, those combat sports, I think could follow actually our way of doing it. It's just, but you're not going to get the equal amount of teams. Like the traditional sports fans don't grasp it at first, but I think as the league goes on, they understand that's how it works. If you win, you can play. If you lose, you don't.
Well, are the managers or the teams guaranteed at least a minimum number of matches? Like, do you have it slotted in the schedule saying, here's the first 2 months, everyone's going to play twice. You have your 2 competitors or whatever.
It's more so like a guarantee that your roster is you're all gonna get an equal amount of matches in like the first month, right? To where you're gonna and then you're also gonna get an equal amount of competitors that enter the tournaments. Like you're not gonna, and you'll have and the way we have to do it, like for free for all, we try to get the equal amount, and if not, then I'll put in some ringers of people who aren't in factions, right? Like last year, I don't think it's a surprise anymore. I think I told you guys this, maybe I didn't, I don't know, but the before the free for all, it was a week before it all stopped and we were supposed to have the free for all. Clark Wolf was the last competitor in the free for all. She was the last one. She wasn't on a faction. She was going to be the last one to come in and be a competitor. So but that was
the commissioner last season. Wasn't she the commissioner last season? Yeah, okay.
She was going to give up the commissionership for the for the day to compete, and if she won, she was either going to challenge for a title or she was going to give it away. So, but either way, the point is we're gonna match up as much. And what I realized this year with free for all is that I've always kind of done the Vince McMahon thing in the past, to where you take some of the picks are legit and some of them are placed, and because you want to have good dramatic moments. I can't really do that this year. They all have to be picked because it's worth 3 points. You get a title shot, and it's like you can't, because there'll be too much if I decide, you know what, Bibiani should be number 2 this year. Right? I mean, he might wind up taking number 2, but what if he's not number 1? What if he's 2? If Coy winds up taking him, could say, well, dude, let him pick normally because he's like one of my best competitors. If I get him towards the end, at like he could win me 3 points plus get a title shot. Like, I don't want you to put him there. I like let him pick on his own. So I have to accept that this year, that like I might wind up getting like all of the really great competitors either early or late, and maybe not splattered out throughout. I might have like 15 rookies back to back, all the way through. And it's and so be it. That's the exciting part about it being more sports oriented, and it's also the scarier part. But the cool thing is that there's so much storyline coming back, and there's so much like overall like dramatic narrative that is happening, and I made sure to make that happen at Spectacular.
Right, very much so. So you're committing yourself. I know famously that you've been told that you like to stick dynamite up the ass of any idea that's not yours. That's what you've said before at SCN at one point or another. So as far as like you're like relinquishing that. Well,
no, let me clarify that. Let me clarify that. That's not. It's not sticking dynamite up. If someone else suggests it, it's the fact sometimes people just start throwing things out. Hey, today I'm gonna change my character and I'm gonna be a spy. I'm like, what? No,
right.
I'm open for ideas and conversations about it too. Like Rachel Silverstream pitched me something great yesterday. I really liked where she came up, but what I told her was, let's see where you get drafted. Let's see what happens, and then we can take it from there, because I don't have any plans for you yet, because I don't know where you are. You know what I mean? I don't know where anybody is yet. So I have certain ideas of certain things. But yeah, as far as with free for all, that just allows me to say, okay, well, look, now that I know the lineup, now I can still throw in storyline throughout it and say, okay, well, that I know that rival is going to be in with that rival, so they can do this thing beforehand, or they could have this little moment, because we're probably going to wind up doing the main free for all digital, I would assume, at this point, because it worked for horror. So I think it could work for the the regular one.
We did a similar thing on Call to Action. We did the generals. Somebody won it. I don't remember who it was. Clearly, they probably wrote the questions.
It was me, PLD.
Well, actually, does a little bit of a follow-up on that, because I know you're a wrestling guy, and I know how much you love talking about the sport and love the storylines as well. How difficult is it for you not to pre-craft some of these storylines, because now you have to be a more reactive storyteller to what actually happens sport-wise, like you said.
But I always was. I mean, that hasn't changed at all. That hasn't changed at all, because it's always been. It's just more organized with the managers and everything too. But I can still make sure that, okay, look, hey, a perfect example is like Rocha and Merle, right? So this is actually a really good one to kind of get behind the scenes on, because Rocha and Merle was people were like, oh, they just broke up the exchange for story. No, that's not what happened at all. I had to have multiple conversations to find out what was happening, what was going to go. Dan wasn't going back to the exchange. Dan was not going to go back to the exchange. Dan, I don't think, was happy at the exchange. So he wanted to go with John, and John, John was gonna go with Dan. So I said, look, guys, here's my idea. My idea, I've been trying to, when you guys lost, I told Orlando, I've talked about it, that if they lost against Corruption, they were going to break up, and we were going to see what we saw at Spectacular. So I've had that in my head for a while, and I said, I still want to do that. I pitched one version of it with Dan going heel. I pitched the other version of it of them both going heel, and I pitched the other version of the one that you ultimately saw. So I said to Rocha, I'm like, look, man, because Rocha was torn on it. Rocha was very torn on it. Rocha loves Dan. Rocha loves Dan. They're very good friends. They're really, really good friends. And Rocha was torn. And we started talking about it. The only thing with Rocha feels like his edge hasn't been there since 2016, 2017. Like, we really had that edge and that fire. And he's like, and we talked about it, and he's like, I might not be able to, but maybe I get it back. And maybe we've done everything that we can, plus the fact that we're such good friends now that we can have fun with the storylines and all that, and back and forth. And so Dan, same thing with Dan. Dan's like, look, I'd love to play with John, and I want to play with John, and we go somewhere else, but I want to talk to John about it. They had a lot of conversations. We went through weeks of not knowing what was going to happen before we finally did it. And then John's like, all right, let's do it. And then I called Dan and I said, hey, John's down to do it. And Dan's like, all right, if John's in, then let's do it. And then, and the funny thing is about the behind the scenes is that Dagnino was supposed to be at the Spectacular. He was supposed to manage. None of that was planned, by the way. None of that was planned. Everyone thinks that, like, because of that, there was like the Ken Knapsack thing where he just shows up at the end. Right. So I call him, he's working, and I go, dude, where are you? Like, what's going on? He's like, I'm working. I'm like, dude, we're shooting a Spectacular title match today. He's like, yeah, I know, but I got a job. I'm like, yeah, but you committed to it on the fucking email. And he's like, I know, but like, I can't do it, man. I'm like, we're doing this massive turn in the post. I'm like, what? He's like, look, you tell me when, and I'll get there for that. And I'm like, all right, look, dude, you gotta, like, I will text you when the match is over. And he's like, all right, listen, these guys don't know that he's like, he's on like Space Jam or something, right? And he's like, they won't know, so I'll run off. Say I'm taking a shit or something, and I'm like, fine. So like, run off and go do it. So I get to the stream and I start talking, and I'm like, and Dan's there, and I go, yeah. So with Dagnino not coming, and Dan goes, wait, Dagnino's not coming. And I go, he didn't call you? He's like, never called me. I was like, he didn't call you to tell you he's not gonna be here? He's like, I guess I don't have a manager. And then I'm like, oh man. And then we're like, well, do we want to have a manager? And then someone brought up, I don't remember who it was. Someone was, what about Rocha? And I go, I don't know if Shannon and Adam are going to agree to that. And then Dan's like, I know John might be available. And then Adam and Shannon were like, they talked about it, like, if John can do it, then because Shannon asked me, she's like, did you set this up? I go, no, I didn't. and so then John came in, and then John asked me, he's like, well, how are we going to do this now if, like, I'm managing him? And I was like, that's actually better for us. I'm like, manage him, put all the love into it, because no one will see it coming. I was like, if you manage it and like you act like legitimately how you would. And then he's like, oh, should I wear the black? I'm like, wear the black in the post interview. I was like, wear the normal now, but when you come back into the post, wear the black. And he's like, all right, I got you. So then Dagnino shows up perfectly at the right time. And then that's how that all went down.
Wow, it could have come off better in a way. That's just funny.
It worked. It was one of those happy accidents. But like, everyone was like, for anybody who says, "Oh man, they broke up the exchange just for storyline," no, that was all organic. Because if Dan and Rocha said to me, "No, we want to stick with the exchange," because that's another thing that was going on. Like you have to. This is something that I remember sitting. And I'm not trying to sound bouge here, but sitting on a private jet with Vince McMahon back in 2001. And he always take the real and elevate it. Yeah. is what he said. And to me, the big thing that happened with Bateman and Riley and Merle and Rocha, that was the big turning point. That decision to put founding father, he made the decision there. Whoever he took, that's who he was going to keep. Because the second he went with that, he lost Ben. And so when that happened, it was like, okay, I got to commit to both these guys. And then when rumblings started happening that Dan didn't want to, be there anymore, then Dagnino's like, well, then I'll, if Rocha wants to stick with me, then why don't we just do it an angle? We'll do Rocha and Dagnino. So which is also great because if you look back in the day, as for those Schmoedown historians, you're talking about Dagnino, who used to call him the dope Rocha, and they had like their big feud back in the, and now it's those two who've kind of like gone so far down the dark side that they have to like rely on each other.
Yes.
Wow.
I do think also Dan is in a better like game space in that to do a really good angle with Rocha as opposed to like any time before this. Like
absolutely, he understands the story way more now than he did even when he played Rocha the first time, because it was still kind of like a transition period. It's better for him to be in an angle with Rocha now because they're such close friends and they're such good friends that they know that anything said or any angle that's said, it's all it's gonna be well crafted and it's gonna be great, because they know each other so well. And Dan is also having a little bit more fun of being in character and playing more of the angles. So yeah, Dan's more locked into story now than he ever has been.
For sure.
Yeah. And then with Ben leaving the exchange, it very much warms my Action Army loving heart. So.
The one thing though, I also don't trust Ben all the way when it comes to, because I still think there's an angle with him and Rocha that they have been talking about, because I can see whether it's Action 2.0 with, because let's face it, I know they're both going to be like, wait, what? Rocha and Guy are the same people, just 40 years apart. It's
back of that guys with a pop up behind you.
I'm sure, but as far as when it comes to character, when it comes to being outspoken, when it comes to passion, when it comes to love of the game, when it comes to smack talk, I mean they're cut from the same cloth, and I think that's why they clash so much at certain points. And I mean more so in the context of the Schmoedown, but it's like, but like they both you could see that. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of silliness happening, because I don't think David Sackrider's reports are too far off.
Well, I've reported this. I was having worked with Ben a lot recently. I do think that Ben, like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Ben needs to be the number one dog," whatever. I think Ben wants to win. That's more important than anything to Ben.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake for him, though. I think he should go off and be his own dog, because the problem I think that he's just going to have is that it's like he's got an opportunity to become. He could become the main star of the company if he goes off on his own and starts his own thing. If he joins up with somebody else, it's basically doing like the LeBron thing, or like but LeBron, he still won titles. So there's if you just have to make sure that if you do that, you have to win. You've got to win championships. If you build out your own thing, people will be a little more forgiving. Like, okay, look, he built out his own thing. He won matches. He started to get some wins for his other. If you join the other big dogs, then you better win championships. And because they're going to say it, well, you needed to do that in order to win the championship. He's like, yeah, but I still won it. Right. And can you defend it? And can you keep it? So he's got a lot to think about going into the free agency special.
100%. He is LeBron. He went to going to the Finstock Exchange was like going to Miami.
Yeah.
Now he needs to come back to Action Army and win a title for Action Army, like LeBron did for Cleveland.
Totally. I mean, look, they even said that on Rundown the other day. It's like no one will dispute that Merle is Jordan. Right. Merle's Jordan. So, and they were trying to figure out, like they said Collins as LeBron, and then Frank goes, no. Ben Bateman is LeBron, because he's basically looking for, he's got that one championship underneath him, but he needs to defend. He needs to win. That elusive teams championship. He can't get his hands on it. So, there's a lot of big stories out there next year, and he's definitely one of them.
Well, unlike LeBron never got to play Jordan. Bateman got to play Merle. So if he wants to be the best, he's got to beat Merle.
I agree.
100%. And we know he can. He just got to do it. I mean, obviously those 2 matches, he had them. He just didn't seal the deal.
Yep.
But,
Dan bids 1 point, he wins. Bateman wins if Dan doesn't bid 0.
Right.
It is, but yeah. Okay. All right, now we talked about the drafts coming up. We got a lot of rookies coming in there. Obviously, it's a lot of rookies being named. Talking about the fan leagues had always been seen as the way to like hone your skills. You always told people get in the fan league, get your skills there. Hopefully, the minor leagues will become that. Do we have a way how people are going to get into the minor leagues?
Yeah, I mean, the way that the minor leagues will work right now, if again the other two, I don't think I really answered the question before. It's like what I need like the budget needs to happen, like, because I'm not, PJ and his crew will not be the writing team for the minor leagues. There'll be a whole new writing team. I want a whole new, I won't be running that league. There'll be a different commissioner. There'll be a different chairman. Like, it'll be a whole different team. So that, again, going to my previous point, that costs money. That to run that for the whole time. Now, because it's the minor leagues, the competitors won't be getting paid. I mean, that's just not. It's not what the minor leagues are. It's like you want to come in and play, and you want to try to get paid. You got to win. So, the minor leagues are. Competitors will know that, and hell, they'll know it from this interview that it's not. It's in order to get paid, you got to make your way through the minor leagues. But that being said, I need to have that locked in. I have to try to get the budget approved. I'm hoping that this new system gets people to want to join Patreon for so we can start to build on more things like the minor leagues. But the first way that you'd get in is those people. There's going to be a lot of people left over in the draft. So the idea is that those people left over in the draft, there's going to be enough for a Star Wars division. There'll be enough for an Intergeekdom division. There'll be enough for a teams division. There'll be enough for a singles division. So there'll be people that you can pick and match for. There won't be factions. It'll be more like how the old Schmoedown was run, where you just kind of mix and match, and people kind of join up, and managers will look on and do it that way. You can build. What I recommend if we do wind up doing a minor leagues is hone your character. Hone your promos. Like that's the most important thing that this year for a lot of these people is that I'm not looking for people who just play trivia. Like is it a big part? Of course it is. You want to be able to have longevity in a league. You got to be good at trivia, obviously. But I don't just want trivia players. I don't want just people who are just like, but I'm really good at this, and that's great. But it's not. We're putting on a show. And not everybody has it. Not everybody. Like, there's some people that I was watching, and there's some other people like in our space that I love to death. They don't have it. They don't have that thing that I'm looking for, and so in the minor leagues, people will have that opportunity to say, you know what, Harloff, you're wrong. I do. You know who's one of those people that did that? Smets. Yeah. Smets. Those people. When Smets auditioned, Smets to me was I was able to look at him at first because he auditioned as like the Mach Schmo Man, right? And it was just god awful. And I think he auditioned in Star Wars. I can't remember what he auditioned, but he was missing everything. And he did okay. And I go, dude, I mean, I like you, but you just don't have it right now, And then he changed up his character. He was angry. He put on this hood. He was kicking people's asses in the fan leagues, and I was like, okay, well let's put the hood up on you. Let's go like Goldberg with you instead. Let's go more like angry, kind of don't say anything, don't cut promos, just go in and Kaiser can be your mouthpiece. And it worked out. So there's always an opportunity to say, no, you're wrong. I do have it. But, that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. I will say, like, kind of like what you said earlier, what Vince said to you, accentuate the real. Like, that's what I feel like a lot of people in some of the fan leagues or some of these people, they're trying to emulate something that someone else has done because they think that's what, A, it comes off as not real. B, we've already seen that. Know about yourself and accentuate what is good about you. And that's because then it comes off as real. It comes across as it's a character, but it's an extension of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
actually
the idea of the family. You have a lot of these people now. The families have been a wild, wild west at times here and there. There's definitely been some kind of negative interaction between some people in space. With all these people coming in, both the Schmoedown and the minor league potential, is there something potentially in place about like a code of conduct and how we're going to work things out as far as like some kind of negative interactions that goes?
What do you mean?
I mean, like some community members have butted heads, and some people don't like. They've had some kind of hostile. There's some hostile environments in some of the families between some people and others.
As far as the minor leagues go,
yeah, because it's kind of Wild West having all those people getting.
Oh yeah, in the minor leagues, you'll still, even though you might not be getting paid to compete, you're still going to have to sign an agreement to be. You still represent. You're still representing the brand of the Schmoedown. So it's like if you're not, kind to people, if there's one of the main things I'm doing for our competitors, I think social media is the devil. I think it is the devil. I use it for promotion and everything too. I think that it is the stupidest thing, especially, and our competitors have been super guilty of it, is that sometimes there's infighting inside of our own community. And it's like, stop. Don't. Right. It's like, I have a problem with you, so instead of calling you, I'm going to call you out on Twitter. No, call the person. You work with them. Right. And it's like, I don't like what you said on your show, so I'm going to tell everybody about it on Twitter. No, tell them to their face. Call them and say, hey, that I did not like what you said, and can you explain to me why? Why did you do that? Okay, blah blah blah. Because by blasting someone that you work with, it's not a good look. It's not a good thing, especially and if you're working on the show and you're in the show and you say certain things about the show itself, like there's a certain thing there's something like a particular angle, like, and this is something I won't even. There's a show and they'll probably know what it was, and I've already talked to the person about it, but the one particular angle is, and Danny, I would like to get your perspective on this, because my thing is this. So Roxy and Shannon, to me, is one of the best feuds that we have had in a very long time. It is a great feud. They are, again, behind the scenes, really good. So I had heard that someone wasn't going to vote for them because it's two women fighting. But what's the difference between, like, if Dan Murrell and, like, Roka were fighting? And but like the two of them, like, they have like a really good rivalry, and it's not, they're not in bikinis wrestling in mud. They're like they're two powerful, strong women who manage their factions to the first and third spot of the overall division. And they have such an entertaining back and forth that every time they go after each other, you're just like, oh my God, what are they going to say next? It's like, oh, this is amazing. Like their feud is as good as any feud I've seen before. So I didn't understand that, or maybe just because I'm a dopey dude. I have no idea.
No, I think everything you said was spot on. It's perfect. It's right. Because if you're just looking at the feud between Roxy and Shannon as surface level, I'm not gonna vote for it because it's just two women. Then you're not allowing Shannon and Roxy to give you the opportunity to show you what they have, like who they are as managers, how passionate they are with their players. So just going off of that, just base that I'm not voting for it because it's two women that are fighting against each other. It's so much more than that. Like, it's not even that. Yeah.
And the person that said it, I love and adore, and I think it's an incredible Schmoedown mind. And I just didn't understand it. And actually the funny thing too, and I also want to make it clear, because I don't want to seem like I'm being a hypocrite, because I am not bashing this person at all, because like, this is a difference from like saying on Twitter to the person like going after them. I'm just curious because I don't feel that particular way, and because this particular podcast was public already, so I was just kind of commenting back, because I look at certain things and I think that I understand it and I don't. But that particular thing, like I didn't get that. Like I understood like when we did, I knew that the slap was going to be controversial. I knew it would be. I knew the slap would be controversial. And I knew it rubbed some people the wrong way, because it's like, oh wait, we're bringing like domestic violence into the Schmoedown. We're bringing in two people who used to date, and that's how they settle their differences. Valid. And I get it. I'm coming from more a wrestling background of like, sometimes of like, hey, violence is it's just a cartoon shticky, but I can understand that not everybody gets that. But when it comes to that particular thing, that one I scratched my head, because I said, no, that's, to me, that just shows two of the best managers who can do it, who just don't, the characters just don't like each other.
Right.
Happen to be women together. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, Shannon was heel of the year this year. So that's who got, so she was the best heel, and Roxy was the best foil for her. It's a great feud. Yeah. Now, some people might be like, well, it comes off as catty. I'm like, well, have you not watched the Schmoedown before? Because John Roca and Andrew Guy had one of the most catty feuds I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, but it's because it's two dudes, so it's like it's weird. It's weird. And it's also that's also the thing, the love that I actually have, the fact that we've gotten so many more women involved now, that I want to incorporate everyone into storylines, not just dudes. I want to make sure that like two women can lead. Like, I actually think it would be incredible if two women won Feud of the Year. That would be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
That would be incredible. Because it was like, because they both put everything they had into the story, and they both put in everything to their players. So my fingers are crossed that winds up winning, but we'll see.
Fair enough. Speaking of podcasts and things like that, I want to be curious. You talked about the awards are coming up. We had that issue where Janine Machine was not nominated, then she was nominated, and then you came on, so there's gonna be a change in the rules and everything. What happened with that? How did that all come out?
Yes, a lot of stuff. The first part of that is that we're changing the name of the award, and even this Friday, it's not going to be called Podcast Award. It's going to be called Best Schmoedown Media.
Oh, okay.
In general, because it's not, because for example, Repeat the Question is more so like a blog than he is a podcast, right? So instead, so we want to make sure it's not Podcast of the Year. That's the first part of that. The second part is that Janine she kind of got screwed over in an aspect, because there's no clear-cut rules of what was allowed and not. And my thinking, like, there was something at first, there weren't people that had put her on the list, and then I was like, okay, I hadn't added her because I said she has such a leg up because she's such a popular competitor. So like, and when it comes to this, because in my head I'm going, well, if she's able to be nominated, then why aren't Ben and Andrew able to be nominated? Because they do a separate non-exclusive, non-official Schmoedown show on their channel, right? But then the argument to that is, well, but yeah, the Gucciverse got nominated, and so did Andrew DiMolanta, and then Molly Damon is also. So it was just there was really not enough looking into it, because it's just so. My personal opinion is that for those shows, for Schmoedown Media, which will be next year, like Andrew DiMolanta and Nikki won't be able to be qualified for that because they're both going to be competitors here. Janine shouldn't be nominated for it next year because she's too popular of a competitor. She has a leg up on people too. Andrew and Ben certainly shouldn't be nominated for it. And so when it goes to someone like, say, like a Certain Point of View, the show was started by Jake. It was started by fans who brought in as having a Schmoedown competitor. Is it still a bit of a leg up? I mean, sure, but it's not run by a Schmoedown competitor. It's not like you like, if Janine wanted to, Janine could go on her match and wear a Machine Mondays shirt and promote it. Jake Kelly can't do that, right? Molly, I guess she could do that if she wanted to, but that's really not in her. It's really not in her best interest. She's going to promote Star Wars Explained if she goes up there, So it's like, either way, what we have to try to figure out to do, because I also think that it also puts the rundown, backstage, Janine show, Andrew and Nikki, there might have to be an award that's created for them, like Best in Schmoedown show, or maybe make that the Schmoedown Podcast of the Year, because they're official Schmoedown, where you guys would qualify as Schmoedown Media, they would be a Schmoedown Podcast. Like that would probably be the fair way to do it. So that way, you give some, because Janine works her ass off on what she's doing every Monday. So it's not really fair to just say like, well, she shouldn't be included. Of course she should be included, because she puts in a lot of effort and she's very passionate about a lot of the things she talks about. So I just think we need to differentiate the two of those things, and I think we'll work on that next season.
That makes sense.
What a strange problem to have. This whole year has been like adding up with after shows and stuff like that.
It's great though. It's a great problem to have. That's why I like
thought 7 years ago.
I know. Well, that's why it'll tie into, I'm sure, like something else you guys want to get into, as far as like when it came down to certain people that can go into the draft and certain people who can't go into the draft, because the Schmoedown Media is starting to become this really big thing, and then it becomes very tricky, almost the same thing that happened with Janine. If we start putting in Schmoedown Media into the actual draft itself, then it becomes very, very tricky, because then it's like, okay, PLD, you're going to be a competitor now? Well, you might have to step off of and not be on Call to Action anymore. It's like, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's the kind of stuff, because the problem is then you start getting emails that that Danny doesn't get and Billy doesn't get, and that you have inside things that certain people don't get. And it's like, that's not, coming in as a guest, kind of, it's different now because you're one of the main people in on this show, right? Molly's a different circumstance. She comes in as a panelist. She comes in, she does her thing, she leaves. She's not running that network. She's not running that channel. She's a guest. She's a guest every week, and she's doing, whatever show she's doing. So that's the tricky part with it.
Right. That makes sense.
Fair enough.
Makes sense. That's definitely fair enough at that point. Okay. All right, going backstage, you had that, you detailed a 2-hour meeting. We did have a couple of follow-up questions about that. Specifically with the rule book. Initially, you really had been fairly adamant that the rule book wasn't going to be released to the public.
Yeah.
Why change of heart? And do you have any concerns going forward with the public getting a hold of it and what they're going to do with it?
Yeah, at the time it wasn't. I had to go through all these legal things to make sure everything was copyrighted, because basically now the bottom line is, you try to do the Schmoedown, I can sue you. But beforehand I couldn't do that, so now I can sue you. So if I put the rule book out and you said, I'm going to make if I wanted to, and I'm not going to do this, there are a lot of fan league shows that have the Schmoedown format. I could tell them, stop that. But it's right now that's what I want to make sure, that the rules that we have are our rules, and if you guys want, and not you guys specifically, but if people want to come up with their own game, come up with their own game. So but the flip side of that is that most, if not all, sports leagues have their rule books out there for their audience to see. But I thought that because of patrons, going back to what Billy said before, to how much other stuff that we do have on there, the $10 patrons and up are going to get the rule book first. They're going to get it first, and then probably like a month later, the rest of the public will get it.
Was there any decision on who went into creating the rule book?
Yeah, I wanted to get two sides. I wanted to get two competitors, and I wanted to get a writer, and I wanted to get someone who just knows the show very well. So with that, I made sure that I got Frank Janish, obviously, who is the kind of sports overall and also knows the league well. I got PJ Campbell, who's the head writer. Bibiani, who is from his writing mind and knowing the game, and then Bateman, obviously, who's probably the best strategist in the game itself. And I wanted to make sure it was all fair, so that way making sure that I had Bibiani and Bateman on it, because if they didn't agree with, if Bateman was doing this like by himself and then Bibiani read it afterwards, he'd be like, well, this clearly favors Ben and I can't do it. As opposed to them both saying it at the same time and being able to combat one another. That was the idea behind it, so they could ultimately debate it. And then once they sent me all of the details, Mark and I looked it over, and then it was this big, like, very thick document, and then Bibiani then was hired to write the whole thing, and then he wrote it out, and then it went to the legal team over at Skybound to make it official.
Nice.
How much did the digital age impact the rule book? Because you have to have a rule book that's going to cover both, whether it's in studio or in the digital age.
A lot, because and that came a lot to his credit. Bibiani, we made sure to add, because we started writing it a while ago when the digital age wasn't a thing, and then once everybody met, then it was, so there had to be new additions made to it, and Bibiani was very adamant on that to make sure that we included all the stuff in the digital side of it too.
Now, one thing you did state specifically, I think it was in Twitter actually, you said there's going to be a rules against petty challenges now. Speaking of Bateman and Bibiani and loving challenges and things of that nature, have you defined what a petty challenge is and how?
Yes. Sorry, but there was in the rule book. I mean, I was listening to I think it was your show that you did with Andrew and Ben, and you guys were talking about it, and there are certain things that when you brought it up, the Mad Hatter Alice in Wonderland challenge. That's not a petty challenge. That's a good challenge. It's an official challenge, and it makes sense. And there's things that's defined. I just don't have the rule book in front of me, but for a movie, if it's a the inside of it, and there's not another movie that has the same type of title, and I don't want to particularly, and I'm not saying that this particular challenge was petty, but a challenge like Surrogates and The Surrogates, you'd lose that challenge this time, because there's no other movie called Surrogates. We clearly, I was watching The Weakest Link, and when I was watching The Weakest Link and they were playing this game, and there was something similar to that where they asked for a title and someone said blah instead of the, and Jalen's like, we accept your answer. And it's like, you got to be able to, like, if you feel that it's a different thing, and it's going to be a case-to-case basis, right? Because like, if you look at, if someone says like Lena Headley, it's a different name. It's a different name. So, but if you say like Lena, if you're like Lena Headey, and so you're trying to say Lena, but it's Lena, but you're saying Lena Headey, it's weird. It's like, it's case by case, and it's going to be on the judges that are on the table, and it's going to be one of those things where it's like a boxing judge. You know, it's like, you're not going to always agree with us on the table. You're just not. You're not going to always agree with us. We're going to have some certain challenges where we're going to say, but like, but now that it's in the rule book, like to where it's specific. 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to rule against you on surrogates or the surrogates. You know, because in the rule book now, it says, you know, certain things. Now, why Chandru won that challenge on the table this year, and what he was rightfully so for winning the challenge, is because the past precedent was that certain things were held to that he should have won it, and that's why he won it. But with the new rule book in play, saying that this is why it's a new kind of era, if you will.
So past precedent is like wiped away. It's all that matters is what's in the rule book.
That's absolutely right.
Perfect. So all you fans out there, don't be like, oh well, before the rule book they used to rule it this way.
They still will be.
Yeah.
But the thing, but that's the whole point, is that when somebody says that now, past precedent says, well, past precedent is a thing of the past. It is past, because now it's all about the rule book, and that's also why, you know, people are going to have access to it to see like, okay, well, that's why it says it there. I made it very clear to them that I wanted them inside of this, that because it'll also make, there's certain times, again, bringing up that Alice in Wonderland challenge, right? That I understand why you challenge, but now I want to make it, because people just challenge sometimes and like, oh, I could actually win this. But when even like the Sir Lord Richard Attenborough thing, right? Like at the time when he challenged it, it's like, you can do it if you want to, and you might actually do it because maybe at the time he actually was credited this. Today you're going to lose that challenge. You're going to lose that challenge no matter what. And I don't think, because Bibiani knows the rulebook, he doesn't make that challenge. And that's what we're trying to avoid, like the ridiculousness of just having a challenge to have it, because Bibiani knew that Dan knew the answer. He knew it. Right. He knows that he did. But he used the shot, and I don't take it away from Bibbs for trying to use it that particular time. I know what he was trying to do. But this, by putting it in the rule book, the challenge was made. The challenge was made. I don't know. Excuse me. Everybody talked about this. It was made after the Jason Inman Eva Wally call. Mm-hmm. Because there was no, he said Eve or instead of Eva or whatever it was, and he wasn't able to challenge it, and that's why it was made, because there's a whole big thing between the Patriots and Trek is that they should have won it, and the speed round and all this crap. So that's why we wanted to do it, to make sure that people like actually had an opportunity to defend themselves if they really feel like what they had was right. But then like and I think Guy brought this up, any athlete tries to manipulate the rules. They try to manipulate. That's what's happened here, is that the players have manipulated the rules to such an extent that we have to figure out a way to do this, because like little things like like certain things, like it's going to be overruled, and now people can stomp their feet and say this is not fair, blah 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 blah. It's like, that's what's in the rule book. That's it.
Yeah, Ben Bateman has been very vocal about the fact that he's used challenges as like weapons to like knock people out of the game.
It's money. Way you can find a leg up.
He will still do it. He'll still do it again, because his challenge against the Elvis thing, that wasn't to win that challenge. It was just to throw something against the wall, because he was getting his head handed to him. So and he'll do that again, and other players will do that again too. But I just want to like take in the middle of a championship, like first round, and everything's like, and it's like, challenge. Why? Well, he said A instead of and it's like, oh. It just kills the game. It kills the game. I hate it. I hate it more than anything. But I understand the challenge. And I responded to Ben when he said, "What do you hope goes away?" And I said challenges. And I didn't mean challenges in general, because I think that they're necessary. I meant the petty, stupid challenges.
That makes sense, and it makes it a lot more. At the very least, it'll limit it. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have things that go down that you can't do, but as long as you can contain it a little bit, that's the most important thing, I think.
There's still going to be a human element. There's going to be things that need to be challenged. Like there's the Seventh Samurai where there's 5 different release dates for it or whatever. Like that's something that needs to be challenged.
The Star Wars question that Laura Kelly got about, well, actually, so-and-so was in that room also, like things like that should be challenged. It's like, okay, well, we didn't take an effective of that or that question, that type of stuff. Absolutely. That's why the challenge rule is in effect. It's like, the movie came out in 1931. Actually, no, it came out in like 1932 at the end of 32. Are you sure? Blah, 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 blah. That's why we make sure that it says domestic in there now and those types of things. But like there needs to be those kind of conversations, and they really need to be able to describe it. And then the other thing, like we mentioned, there's going to be the timeout rule that's also going to be in effect this year too.
Right. So how do we know how are you gonna? Can you say how it's going to work, the timeout rule?
I'd like to tell you, but I don't remember.
Fair enough.
It came from Bateman. And then it was actually Sam and I talked about it a long time ago. And then Bibiani had brought it up, and then they brought it to me, and I said I liked it. I talked to Mark about it. We both liked it, so we approved it. And then I just forget how it actually kind of goes down. But it's similar to the fact that you can't call a timeout once the question's asked. I know that. I know. It's like who directed Jurassic Park? You can go timeout. It's like, no, you can do it. You can do it before, like it's in the middle of the round or something like 2, or like it's something like if it's you just missed your 2-pointer, timeout. Right. I want to take it. And I think it's 60 seconds. I don't remember. It
makes sense because that's how it is in sports. It's not like you can just suddenly call timeout in the middle of a Hail Mary or something.
Timeout. Yeah.
All right, now the draft list, the auditions ended today. This is Friday or whatever. Auditions ended today. How many total people are you going to be announcing? Do you have an idea of number? And
I just finalized. I finalized the list today of all the people. I watched the auditions, the rest of the auditions this morning, and let's see. I can tell you right now how many people. And this includes people that are in the list that. Like Adam Collins is in this list right now. And so I'll just tell you how many people, including older competitors, plus, let's see. So it's 2 minus 3 minus 4 minus 5. Okay. So there right now are 153 people in the draft right now.
All right.
150.
Following up on that, like obviously, I wanted to ask, are there any returning vets left to be announced? Because we noted, I looked over at some significant auditions. I know obviously McCugan Knapsack retired, Tom taking the season off, Kevin off kicking cancer's ass. But we got like people like Tim Franco, Gray Drake, Matt Atchity, and Andrew Guy were not on that list.
So right now, Atchity is going to be out for this season. Gray Drake, for the time being, is out, but could come back.
Okay.
TBD on Guy. What was the
Tim Franco?
Tim Franco's out for the season.
Okay. So are there any other bets left to be announced then, or is that the bets are all?
Everybody that's in that list that you guys saw should be it. Yeah, and then once the list comes out on it'll come out on the day after the free agency special, the full draft list, confirmed draft list with any new rookies that were put in there, any new people that reached out. Like there's 3 guys from Barstool that we just added. There are some few other people that kind of went through. So there's a guy from The Ringer. So there's a few more people that have been added, but that final list will come in because the draft list will be updated with all of the players that have been put into factions. Like they'll be taken off the list, obviously, and added to the factions that they sign with.
Okay,
fair enough. Always looking for scoops. I do have one question I'm going to throw an audible on. I didn't ask these guys about. We know that there's a lot of new slices this year, like about 40 of them. Any chance we could preview maybe 1 or 2?
This is my favorite question because I can say I have no idea, and I'll tell you why. Because I'll look at it, I'll say, PJ will say, do these look good? And I go through them and I take a look, and they escape my brain after I like them or I don't. I say good, and I don't think about it ever again because I don't manage the wheel, I don't manage the categories. I'll talk to PJ, but when it comes to that stuff, I have nothing to do with the wheel. That's the last thing in the world I want to do when competitors say to me like, "Oh, what does my wheel look like?" I don't know. You'll find out. I have no idea. Has nothing to do with me. Don't bother me when it comes to the wheel or questions or all that stuff. That's PJ and Mark. Mark handles all that stuff, and I want nothing to do with it.
Fair. Fair enough. We do have some questions from our Patreon, but I'll ask one last question before we get to those, Danny. If you want, Billy, actually, you had this question. I want you about the biggest regret. I want you to go ahead with that one.
Yeah,
Billy.
so we're 7 years into the Schmoedown now. What would you say is your biggest regret, or possibly your biggest mistake that you made in the Schmoedown?
Biggest regret. I mean, I would have probably liked to start the Patreon maybe a little early. Brienne had been leaning on me a while to start that before I actually did it. Allowed me to do more stuff, I think. What was the second part of that, Billy? Sorry.
What was your biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake. I probably one that I don't want to say on air.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
All right. Fair. All right, Danny, want to introduce the Patreon questions?
Yeah, well, you know what, y'all, we are doing things a little bit different here on the show tonight. Usually during Chill to Action, we have a specific segment. We are going to skip that segment. Sorry about that. But we are bringing on our sweet and lovely Miss Kelsey Kirkland. Kelsey will be reading. Kelsey will be reading off some of our Patreon questions. If you are at a specific level at our Patreon, Patreon/Call to Action, you are able to submit questions for Chill to Action and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much. I'm gonna hand this over to Kelsey.
All right. Well, thank you so much to our patrons for sending these awesome questions. The first one I'm going to ask is from Jeff Altman. One of the things I'm most curious about is how the financials work between on-air donations, the Patreon, and the partnership with Skybound. Within what you feel can be shared, how do these help support the day-to-day operations? And besides just signing up for Patreon or increasing our own patronage, what other ways are there to help support, and what other avenues have you explored to grow the network even more?
Phenomenal question. And I think it goes back to what I said earlier today in the interview, was that it's with the partnership with Skybound, I was able to get a whole new team. I was able to get a head of production. I was able to get producers. I was able to get editors and people that nature. But I was also able to get a whole bunch of new salaries with that. So yes, I was able to get those things, but what people don't understand, it's not just like, oh, you're with Skybound now, they're going to give you money and then yay for you. It's like, guess what? They're putting in money that they want to get back. You know what I mean? That's the part of it. And it's like they're giving you employees, they're giving you these things though. So when everything that is happening, whether it's the donations, whether it's the Patreon, whether it's all this stuff, it's for us to be able to build and be able to get more people in, to be able to create more shows, but be able to, like I said before, we need to market more. We need to eventually, when we're able to, we want it, like you have to be able, for all the stuff that we do, whether it's the pay-per-views, and you've got to be able to, like any business, you got to be able to make a profit. And when you're not doing live events, and speaking of which, when you're doing live events with traveling and all that, so what we need to do is not something that you guys can particularly help with. We need a full-time, like a full year to 5 year sponsor. Like, we've been lucky with the SEN and other places to get some sponsorships, but it's not like these yearly kind of overall, like if you have like first brand I think of, Nike presents the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. That's going to set us up for a long time. You know what I mean? So like those types of things. As far as what people can do, joining the Patreon at the $10 level, if you are a fan of it and you have the means to it, that is absolutely something that is it's super helpful and super important for the growth of the league. But sharing it, telling your friends about it, talking about it, letting people know about the show itself, and letting, because it's hard at first for people to say, well, I don't really know how to explain like what the Schmoedown is. When you think about it, it's like, what if movie trivia was a sport? Well, this is a sport. If you combine the WWE with the UFC and Jeopardy, that's the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. If you want to see what esports has become, this is what the Movie Trivia Schmoedown aspires to. It's competitive movie trivia. It's not bar trivia. It's like, watch one of these things, watch what these people do, watch how these people are mental athletes, and you will be. And for those people, you don't have to be a movie fan to. I know there's a lot of people who were friends of mine that came to New York, and they're not massive movie fans. They just wanted to watch Dan Murrell answer questions because they were like, how does he do it? In the same way that you watch somebody jump and catch a touchdown in the end zone. How did they do that? How were they able to do that? Same way you see someone hit like a massive home run. How in the world were they able to do that? It's the same thing with our guys, it's like, and girls. And it's so that's kind of how the financials work, because it's like it's a business, and right now we need to expand the audience, we need to get more people in, and we need to get rid of the people who still don't understand that it's not just Schmoes Know anymore. I liked it a lot better when you and Mark were just reviewing for the Rocky poster. Then go back in time, go to the DeLorean and watch all of those things, because that's not what this is anymore. It's like everybody and their mother does movie reviews now. I don't want to just do that. I'll do movie reviews still, but that's not what this is. You can find other channels that talk about movie news. You can find other channels that do movie reviews. You can't find any other channels that do what the Schmoedown does. You can't. You can find other trivia shows, but you can't find the Schmoedown anywhere else. And that's why, it's like people who are going to be stubborn and go, I'm not going to watch that because it's not Schmoes Know. Then you're not really doing yourself a favor, because this is a unique product, and we're excited to bring in the new year.
Very much so.
Very cool. All right. Our next question comes from Weston Iro. Will there be an award at some point for off-screen talent like Nerd Chronic, Dwayne, and Megan, for instance?
Not an award, but because it's like it's like you don't give awards to when you're doing the Oscars, and it's like, hey, we're gonna give an award to the editors who did an incredible job tonight here. We're gonna give an award to the producers of the show here tonight. No, not for that, but it's like what Eric has done is Eric single-handedly kept the Schmoedown's flavor alive this year. Mm-hmm. He was able to. I want to employ Eric for as long as I can and reward him that way. That's how I want to be able to do it, because like there's certain so it was going to be, there was someone else that I had prepped for the Yodi Award this year. And then it was obvious to me it had to be Smash. And not only for the obvious that's going on with him, but for what, because he's not coming back yet. And I wanted to honor what he was able to do in his short stint in the Schmoedown. So, and it's the Yodi Award was built out for players and on-camera personalities and things of that nature. So when it comes to like producers and writers, and the editors, it's always going to be something where I will shout them out from the heavens at every live event on the Facebook page to their faces. But to giving an award, probably not in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Buy them drinks at live events, guys. Buy them all the drinks at live events.
Yes.
Their award.
Exactly. And I want to make it very clear, without people like Megan and Eric, and the show doesn't work. It doesn't have its flavor. It doesn't have its vibe. But it's like there's the awards are made they're just not made for that. The awards themselves are made for the competitors and everything else too. Because then at that point, it's like, okay, I'm also going to give producer of the year, and I'm going to give executive of the year, and I'm going to, because there's so many other people that do things in the Schmoedown that you guys don't know about. Like, you know about Eric because he's so damn good and he's so talented that we say, hey, it's how about designer of the year with Brian Ward, and like how and also like for, Kim Bowden, who has to manage both Eric and Michael, and so managing editor of the year. It's like there's so much, just because Eric is known and loved and what he's done. That's why rightfully so he gets the love that he does.
That makes sense. Very much so.
All right. Next question is also from Weston, asking, will the Snyder Cut be counted as a movie for the MTS?
I believe it will be. That's one of the conversations that I think is for Inner Geekdom this year, is the Lord of the Rings extended cuts are going to be counted inside of Inner Geekdom. And so is that there's a streaming conversation that is part of the rule book, and I figure what constitutes of, because most movies this year are going to be streaming anyway, so we have to figure out, like, for new releases what we include. The competitors would be told which movies I think it is, and so certain cuts and extended cuts are included in Inner Geekdom and other things. So yeah, I believe the Snyder Cut will be. It was discussed, so I think it will be. Yeah.
There was talk about including The Mandalorian and Star Wars. Is that possible?
Not this year. I think eventually we'll get there. I think that when we call it, we're probably just going to have to call it, instead of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, it'll probably just be called at one point the Star Wars Schmoedown, when we have like its own division or something, because like if we can, because right now it's still part of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, you know,
right.
And so it really is just about the movies, and you can recycle questions from the 10 movies. But the problem is that with the MCU, they're continuing to kind of build out movies, and there's 20 some odd movies. With Star Wars, there's only 10. So you're going to run out eventually. So I think starting in 2022, we'll most likely add all the shows, and probably add Clone Wars and Rebels and everything too. But we'll do similar to what we did with when we had the managers vote on either 10 players or 12. We're going to have like the Star Wars players, like probably that are in the division at the time, vote on it.
All right. Next question, also from Weston, is what are the 2 worst decisions you've ever seen a manager make?
Oh, man. The worst decisions. It's so hard for me to think of all this stuff. I hate to throw her under the bus. Giving Alonso Duralde Festival Darlings. Just all that was it just was Kate not knowing. And I gave Kate a lot of love the other day, and I stand by it. Everyone talks about how like there was all these rookie managers. There was only really one rookie manager, and it was Kate, because Shannon has been playing with Mike and has been around the game for quite a while, right? Winston was a player. Coy was a player. Kate was thrown into being a manager. She was thrown into it. She was supposed to be, and then something else was going to happen. She wasn't going to be, because I wasn't sure if Sam was going to come in. And when Sam was like, okay, I need you after all. She said, no worries, no problem. Then Emma decided she wasn't going to do it this season. And I was like, Kate, I do need another manager. And she's like, I'm in. So she knew nothing about the game except the fact she had been to a free-for-all or something too. So none of them knew that Alonso Duralde is a killer when it comes to Festival Darlings. I remember being in the studio, and I was like, oh, they got him an opponent's choice, and they go Festival Darlings, and I went, oh my God. And I went like this, I was like, it's over. I turned to someone, I said, they're gonna win. I was like, holy crap, they're gonna win, because that was a big upset at the time. And I was like, they're gonna win. I was like, that was a crucial error. So that was a big one. The other one, had to be something Tom did. I just don't know what. I'd have to think about it. But there's it's not necessarily a manager move. It's just one of my favorite, the funniest thing I've ever seen to this day. I guess on the laughing side of it. I watched it about a month ago. Have you guys ever watched when he played Matt Nost?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It's so good. Like he's in the middle of, I think it says Chadwick Boseman. And then I go, what did you write? No. It's Damien Chazelle. I go, what did you write there? I go, Damien, and he fumbles it and throws it on the floor by accident. And it's like, Campy and I just start burst out laughing. And it's like, oh, it's so great. So I'll just say that because he's in.
Matt Nost was like the perfect foil for him too. It was so good.
Try it. Oh man.
Yeah. All right. And then the last question, I do too. The last question we have from patrons is from Darren Wright. He says, who do you think would make a great future manager other than the obvious Batemans, etc.? And do you have anything to say to the current list of retired players?
Do I have anything to say to the retired players? Thank you, I guess. Those are the ones who really helped build it. There are a lot of legends who retired, and there's certain people that I always cross my fingers that they'll come back. There's some that I think that will, and there's some that I think probably won't ever, but they'll be on the desk. But as far as what was the first part, Kelsey? I'm sorry.
Who do you think would be a great future manager other than the obvious, such as Bateman and Roca?
I think Guy would be pretty good. I think Andrew Guy would be good. I think Andreyko would be good. I think Clark Wolf would be really good if she was able to do it time wise. I think Janine would be really good actually. I think Janine is. I think she had her one chance when she managed, who did she manage? Guy and McWeeny, I think. And I think she was just kind of thrown into it, a little overwhelmed at that time. But I think that if she really cracked into it, I think she'd be pretty good. I think Video Drew actually would be pretty good too. Would be a good manager. So those are ones I think would be good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All
Awesome.
right.
Yep, that's it for Patreon questions.
That's our Patreon question. Danny.
Sweet. That is it, y'all. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we did this. We did it. Yay. So shout out to everyone that is hanging out with us inside of the chat right now. Like I said, this is pre-recorded. So some of us might be in there showing you some love. We are showing all of you some love. So thank you so much for spending time with us. And again, to the commissioner, Kristian Harloff, thank you for coming in and hanging out with us on this Sunday night. Kristian, do we need to tell anyone in this audience where to find you? I feel like anyone here knows who you are.
It probably in my kitchen after this, making a pizza.
Billy Belford, where can the good people find you at, my good sir?
Billy, you're muted.
Oh, me. Oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, you can find me at Mr. Billy Belford on Twitter. I'm back on there again for the moment until I quit that crap all over again. But yeah, and you can find me on there. There you go.
My sweet love, Kelsey Kirkland.
All right, you can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me at Miss Quinkins on Instagram. That's my cosplay page. And of course, you can always find me here on Call to Action Live and Chill to Action every weekend.
Paul _ to News on Twitter. You can find me on Chill to Action every week. Sometimes on Call to Action Live. Also find me on Action Industries. I'm usually on Ben and Drew's programming, producing from behind the scenes, sometimes on the screen, and sometimes on Root of the Question, which was the most controversial first episode of a Schmoedown show in the history of second one went a little more.
Second one was good. I watched it like this.
But it was fun.
I was on my I should have been on my Octus looking at Twitter at the same time as the show is going on.
But that, I hung out later on with PJ Campbell. I hung out with him later on. He watched the show like in front of me when I was like talking. I'm like, this is gonna be.
Yeah, no, the second one was good. I thought the second one was it's a very good idea for the show in general about what it was. It just is the first one, when not told about it from anybody, it went off like a fart in an elevator.
The old Bischoff saying back in the day, but all right. And Danny, want to talk about our Patreon?
Yeah, we started Patreon. You can go and find it. The link is going to be inside of the description. I can't ever say that word. It's patreon.com/call-to-action, just like that. You can find us there, and you can also find me, your girl Danny Joy, on Twitter at DANIEEJOY. You can also find me here every Sunday hanging out with my favorite co-host right over there. So thank you all so much again for hanging out with us. Give your puppies a belly rub for me. Love you all so much. And as always, team, we salute you.
Join the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Patreon and the SEN Live Patreon. Those will also be in the description. So other than that, take care, guys. And
thank you. Yeah.
Salute you.